Okay, sit yourself onto your lift and just bring yourself up into a cross-leg position. So just sit yourself on the lift and just observe your balance. Just make sure that you feel like you're equally weighted on the seat bones. So hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. Lift into your heart region and then draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just look down at the floor, look at something that isn't moving. Focus in on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Just concentrating on rolling onto the front edge of the seat bones. Release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste, extending from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of your hands, the heels of the hands into the fingertips. And then with an exhalation, just allow your eyes to gently close. Draw your attention into the breath. Focus in on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Feel the lungs expand with the inhalation and relax with the out breath. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift the chest up to meet the chin. Draw your shoulders away from your ears. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area as you release the backs of your hands down towards your knees. Connect the tip of the index finger with the thumb in both hands. Just a gesture of wisdom, intelligence, and peacefulness that we can carry into our practice. And then as you raise your head, just gently allow your eyes to softly open. Just hold onto your knees and lift up into the chest. Staying on your lift, bring your feet together for padottanasana. So the soles of the feet are together. Now, when you're sitting on a lift, getting hold of the big toes really kind of feels like you're going to drop down in the chest. So you can either get hold of the shins and work to elevate the heart area upwards, or if that isn't working for you, you can slide a belt underneath your feet and just hold onto the belt as close to the feet as you can, but with space in the heart area, lifting up into the chest, driving the chest upwards, drawing the shoulders down, pushing the heels consciously together, and then with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest, feeling the stretch at the back of the neck. Take a deep inhalation and then raise the chin up to the ceiling with the exhalation. And then take an inhalation, and on the exhalation, draw the chin back down to meet the chest, drawing the shoulders away from your ears, lengthening out the back of the neck. Take a deep inhalation and then again raising the chin with an exhalation, feeling the stretch of the front of the neck. And then release the head. Just spend a moment just resetting, just making sure that you feel evenly positioned on the seat bones. Lift up into the heart area, and then with an exhalation, right ear down to the shoulder, but keeping the shoulder away from the ear. So you get that stretch along the left side of the neck. Just varying it. So Andrew, I remember you saying that this wasn't good for you, so just you can just look down and up instead of sideways, and then come over to the other side, just feeling the stretch on the opposite side of the neck, on the more open side of the neck. On an exhalation, come back to right ear to right shoulder, just taking it nice and easy. Just feeling the stretch of the neck, and then back to the center, and then just one more time back over to the side. And then back to the center. Just stretch your legs out in front and just shuffle your way off your lift a little so that the backs of your thighs are free of the lift. And then get the belt around your feet, throw the belt around your feet so it's around the ball joint of your feet. I think my feet are just slightly out of shot, but press the feet firmly into the belt and then lift your heart area up to the ceiling. So tighten your kneecaps and activate the thigh muscles. Holding onto the belt, pull yourself forward so that you roll onto the front edge of the seat bones, so that you can really lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards. Just breathe from the bottom of the lungs into the top, activating those legs into the floor. Maybe they're a little reluctant to straighten out. Just a little bit come forwards, just we're not coming all the way, just enough to really activate the legs to lift the chest upwards, stamping the backs of the knees into the floor. Just come forward just a little if you've got any problems with your back that feel like they are aggravated by forward bending. Lift up into the chest. See, maybe you can find the feet lifting up into the heart area. So just finding the pose that works for you. So I've still got a bit of a dodgy back. So coming forwards, I felt was too far from my back, so I've come back to the bolster, to the belt. Sorry, lifting up into the chest, and then coming forwards, just like you're riding a horse. Push your feet into the floor. Push your feet into the belt. Turn the legs, the fronts of the legs inwards, and lift up into the chest. And then take both ends of the belt with your left hand, and then turn to the right side, digging the right hand into the floor behind you. Turning the abdomen, and the ribs and the shoulders. Just listening to the sound of your breath and using your out breath to turn a little more deeply. So padottanasana. Come back to the centre, just take both of the ends of the belt and then transfer both sides into the right hand. Draw your left hand behind you and turn to the left. Keeping those legs really firmly activated. And then come back to the centre. Just sit yourself back in cross legs for a moment, just rearranging on the bolster, on the blank cushion. Lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, just observing how the pose feels different to the previous turn. So it may not feel better or easier, it just will feel different. Maybe it does feel better or easier. Maybe it feels more familiar. Come back to the centre, lift up into the chest, and then turn to the left. And then come back to centre. Just come off your lift. If you've got a bolster nearby, then have a bolster between your knees. If you don't, then you can just do advisable just along the floor. But using the bolster just gives you a little more space to lift in the chest. So maintain the seat bones in connection with the heels if you can. Spread your fingers, spread your palms, stretch your arms forwards. So you don't come down so low, but it gives you space in the armpits. It gives you space to extend into your arms. Just resting your shins, so your chin on the bolster. You can bring the head down, but extending the chin forwards just helps to continue to extend the spine away. So aim to keep the seat bones down onto the heels. It's not as easy as it sounds when you've got the bolster there, but try and keep the front chest lifted and long. And then release your arms just to the sides of the body and rest your head on one side. Let your shoulders relax into the floor. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, lift your head, and then turn your head over to the other side. And then again, just let your arms rest down into the floor. So gravity kind of opens up the shoulders, opens up the back of the shoulders. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then just push yourself up onto your knees, just sitting back on your shins. Just lift up into the chest, lift up into the heart area, drawing the heart area up to the ceiling. Bring your hands behind you so that your hands are directly underneath your shoulders and the fingers are pointing forwards towards your knees. So you might just want to stay at this stage, just lifting the chest, pushing the hands into the floor, lifting the wrists up into the elbows, into the armpits. And if you can pull or lengthen the chin away from the chest. But if that doesn't feel right for you, then just keep your head lifted. If you can tuck the tailbone in, really slide the tailbone up towards the ceiling, drawing the buttock flesh towards the backs of the knees, and then maybe see if you can lift off your heels with your seat bones. Lifting from the wrists into the armpits, pressing the shins into the floor, lifting from the thighs into the hips, into the abdomen, into the chest. And then sit back down on your heels again, and then come back to the center. And then again, just come forwards, stretching your arms initially, stretching your arms away, lengthening them away. But this time you can bring your arms out as wide apart as your shoulders. Push your arms firmly into the floor, keep the chest lifting forward. You might find it more difficult to keep the seat bones down on the heels. Just experiment with bringing them, don't bring them lower than your shoulders if you can avoid it. So the higher above the shoulders, the easier it becomes to draw the seat bones back down onto the heels. So start bringing the hands back into the original position, just shoulder width apart. And then each time you can feel your back really opening. Just go bring your hands out to the shoulders again, push your hands into the floor. Just notice how difficult it is to access the lower back and bring them up a little closer together, keeping the arms straight. So just incrementally walking those hands back until you can really feel that you're stretching out your lower back. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, spreading the fingers, spreading the palms, and then bring your arms to the side again. Rest your head on one side and just allow gravity to draw you into the bolster, just stretching out your neck. So if this doesn't feel right in your neck, then you can just put your forehead onto the floor instead. Your hands underneath your shoulders, just swap the position of your head, and then just again rest your shoulders into the floor. Let gravity draw you down. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, and then sit yourself up, and then move the bolster out of the way. Come onto all fours, have your hands as wide apart as the mat, stretching your thumbs towards each other, little fingers on the edge of the mat, and then come up into dog down. So lifting thighs, lifting the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then come down onto your knees, just sit back on your heels. So you might need a block or two for this next pose. So we're going to do an elbow balance, a bit like pinch my asana, but get a block and put it between your two elbows like this. So you got the block between the two elbows, and then have another block. So you got the blocks like this. So one around your hands, one around your shoulders. Now, if your block is too small and it's smaller than your shoulder span, then you might have to kind of just get one of the blocks for your shoulders and put them like that if you've got really broad shoulders. But just see, so you don't want your elbows to be too wide, but you don't want them to be too narrow. So just push your elbows into the block, and then just push your hands into the block at the same time. So you create this real firmness in the shoulders, and then come up onto your knees. Keep pulling the elbows into the block, and then just come up onto your elbows. Try and keep the elbows firm on the block. The block will want to kind of release. So you have to work hard to keep pressing the hands together. So lengthen up like you're doing dog down. Push the hands into the block. Push the elbows into the block as well if you can. You might have to rest your head on the block. And then just do dog down legs. And then gently come down. Just sit back on your shins and then stretch forward. You can have one of the blocks for your head. So using the two blocks is just about sit back on your heels. Using the two blocks is just about keeping the keeping your shoulders level, just sit back on your heels for a second. This time we're going to do the same thing, but rather than using 2 blocks, we're going to keep the elbows close together. You can always have that elbow block for the elbow, but this time you bring the block into your hands like this. So it's almost like jazz hands with the block kind of squeezed between the finger knuckles. So the palms are flat on the floor. You might still want that second elbow for your elbows. Think of the word then. Press your hands together, press the palms flat onto the floor, and then come up. This time your palms are pressing into the floor, so it feels a little bit more familiar, a little more like dog down. So can you press the palms into the floor, press the forearms into the floor, lift up into the chest, try and keep the elbows squeezing into that elbow block. Okay, and then just coming back, sitting back onto your heels. So it's the first stage of a pose called asana, and you basically, it's like an elbow balance. It's like a shoulder, it's like a headstand or a handstand, but you're balancing on your elbows. Quite intense, but an interesting pose. Just come down. So come up onto your feet and just come up into a standing position. So just observe how the upper body is feeling, how the shoulders are feeling. Turn the palms all the way out, broadening the chest. Listen to the breath as it enters and as it exits. Stretch your arms out in front, turn the palms, and then bring the hands into namaskarasana, walking fingers up towards the neck. And then lengthen your elbows behind you. And then draw the elbows in towards each other so that the palms of the hands make a recognizable prayer position. Lift up into the chest. Breathe even, deep inhalations and exhalations. Just focusing on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And then bring the feet hip width apart. So just do this sideways. And then just coming forward, hinging at the hips, keeping the chest lifted, keeping the head lifted. Coming forwards, just coming halfway. Lengthening the chin and the chest forwards. If you can go down further, then do. But you can stop at halfway. There shouldn't be too much effort on your back. Keep coming forward, stretching the front chest forwards. Keep the legs really firm. In uttanasana, tighten the kneecaps, lift the thigh muscles. Try and keep those elbows winging back. Try and keep the palms flat together. That's hard, isn't it? Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. So Andrew, don't bring your head down lower than your hips. Keep looking forwards instead. And then come up into a standing position. And then release your hands, spread your fingers. Spread your palms. Just feel all of that energy in the arms. Turn the palms all the way out. Just listening to the sound of the breath. Bring your hands forwards and then again bring them back into namaskarasana. Walking them up your back. Maybe the second time you can get your hands a little bit higher up. Lifting up into the chest. And then step or jump your feet wide apart for prasarita, padottanasana. So just stay at this stage first because I need to give you a variation. So we're going to come into prasarita padottanasana 1. So if you're not bringing your head lower than your hips, at this stage you're just going to release your hands, or you can stay there, or you can bring your hand down, and then you just continue to project the chin and chest forwards. Otherwise, you're going to bring chest forwards. You might just stay here if you're not bringing your head lower, or you might bring your head down towards the floor. So just with the legs in the namaskarasana, turn your toes in, lift up into the chest, and then hinge at the hips. Release the hands if you're keeping your head above your heart area and above your hips. And then come down all the way if you can. Otherwise, just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, working to keep the front chest long so that you can keep the heels of the hands together, the palms of the hands together. Keep the breath deep and soft. And then release your arms, bring your hands onto the floor, and then just come into prasarita padottanasana 1. And then bring the palms flat down into the floor, bend your knees, and then step or jump your feet back together, and then come up into padasana. And then just have your inner edge of your feet together and raise your arms up. Have your arms ideally shoulder width apart. I don't have enough ceiling height, so mine are wider. If you struggle to straighten your arms, bring them wider. But ideally, arms are kind of shoulder width apart, but ceiling height is of a premium in here. And then release your arms, and then come down onto your back for supta konasana. So just directly on the floor. Just come down onto your back, soles of the feet together as close to the seat bones as you can get them. And then just guide yourself down onto the floor. Just observe the straight line of the floor, resting your hands on your lower ribs. Push the heels of the feet consciously together. Turn the tailbone in. Draw the abdomen towards the spine, broadening the abdomen into the side ribs. Stretch your arms up to the ceiling, interlock your fingers, turn the palms all the way up, and then lengthen your arms along the floor. If there's any stiffness in your hips, put blocks underneath your thighs. If there's stiffness in your shoulders, put a folded blanket or some blocks underneath your hands to support your shoulders. Otherwise, just using the floor to open the fronts of the hips, to broaden the abdomen and the chest, and to open up the shoulders. Stretch your arms up to the ceiling, swap the interlock of your fingers, turn your palms all the way out, and then lengthen your arms along the floor. And then release your arms, just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Okay, and then get a block between your hands, and you're going to hold the block really firmly between your arms, and then bring your knees together and then stretch your legs along the floor. Just pull in firmly on the belt, so holding the block really firmly, trying to pull it apart at the same time. So we're going to bring our legs up into 12 o'clock. But if you've got a bad back, then bend your knees to bring the legs in and then straighten them. If there's no problem with your back, you can stretch your legs, you can just raise your legs up straight. So bring your knees in toward your chest, or bring your legs up in a straight line up to 12 o'clock, and then pull really firmly on the block between your hands. Keeping the tailbone down. If you struggle to lift your legs, you can always put a block underneath your sacrum area. But pull on the belt really firmly so that you can feel the side ribs opening up. Keep the abdomen drawing towards the spine to just soften the curve of the lumbar a little, lengthen from the hips into the heels. Breathing even, deep inhalations and exhalations. And then either just bring your legs back down straight, or bend your knees, bring your feet back down onto the floor, and stretch your legs along the floor. Leave the block over your head, and then just rest your arms into the sides of the floor for a moment, just to really release your back into the floor. So just continue to listen to the breath. Just feel how the shoulders have been opened up. Feel how there's lots of energy around the upper abdomen, around the diaphragm region, around the liver. And then again, stretch your arms up along the floor beyond your head. Get hold of that block. Hold the block firmly like you want to tear it apart. And then either with straight legs or bent knees, bring the legs up to 12 o'clock. Keeping the back straight along the floor, stretching firmly into your arms. So pull in on that belt really firmly, lengthening from the hips into the heels. Breathe even, deep inhalations and exhalations. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. Just listening to the breath as it enters and as it exits. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Finding the length of the side ribs. Okay, and then bend your knees if you've got a bad back, or bring your legs back down gently if you don't, and then just leave that block behind. And then come into shavasana for a moment, just letting the back just rest into the floor. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then gently roll over onto your right side. And then straighten out your top leg, and then come up into a seated position. Just sitting yourself in cross legs for just a moment. Have a couple of blocks nearby. Just hold onto your knees. if there's problems with your back, just stay at this stage. Otherwise, take the blocks and just walk the blocks out in front. Press the palms into the floor, into the blocks. Spread your fingers, press the palms down, keeping the chest lifted. You can bring the blocks down lower, or you can even bring your hands down to the floor. Just Adho Mukha swastikasana or half padmasana. So I've done lots of variations of poses today. Come back to the centre, just hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. And then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders. And then come back to the centre, lift up into your chest, and then turn to the left. And then come back to the centre. Get your blanket, your folded blanket for your head, just a little pillow for your head, and then just lay yourself right down the centre of your mat. Let go of your legs, take your glasses off if you're wearing them, just to let the face relax, and then allow yourself to completely release into the floor. Close your eyes and just focus on unhooking the muscles of the arms and the legs. As you release into the ground, observe that feeling of lightness that radiates out from the bones into the muscles. And into the organs. Just allow that feeling of energetic lightness to radiate into the toes and into the fingers and up into the top of the head, distributing it with the breath. ready to disturb yourself, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. And then bend your knees, bring your knees in towards your chest, just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then gently roll over onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just sit yourself in cross legs with your hands in namaskarasana, just a final spinal lift. Focusing on long, slow, deep inhalations and exhalations, drawing the breath down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, cleansing energy that comes from the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the inversions. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside, and then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you've really given yourself a good old stretch and you've given yourself lots of good energy for the rest of your day. So thank you very much for joining me.